The construction of the first artificial intelligence industrial hub in the New Clark City is set to begin soon under the Pax Silica Initiative of the United States.
Kung pag-aralan natin yung Pax Silica na yan, it is a manufacturing and high technology endeavor. It is actually resilience. Kaya may gera, kaya hindi, naninikip ang supply ng mga kinakailangan natin. It is an effort to join the manufacturing cycle.
The U.S. and the Philippines are building a 4,000-acre AI and chip hub on the site of a former American airbase. It could reshape Asia's tech future if a fight over sovereignty doesn't get in the way.
2, 1.
In 1992, the Philippine Senate voted to send the Americans home. After nearly a century, the United States packed up and left Clark Air Base, once one of its largest military outposts overseas. For many Filipinos, it was a proud moment, a young democracy reclaiming its land. More than 30 years later, the Americans are coming back to Clark. But this time, they are not bringing fighter jets or aircraft carriers. They are bringing something that may matter even more in the 21st century: computer chips, artificial intelligence, and the factories that make them. This is the story of the U.S.-Philippines Economic Security Zone, a project that sounds like a business deal, but may quietly reshape the balance of power across Asia. And it is already sparking a hard question inside the Philippines. How much should a country trade for a seat at the future's table? In April 2026, the United States and the Philippines picked New Clark City in Tarlac Province as the home for a brand new technology zone. The site covers about 1,619 hectares, nearly 4,000 acres, making it one of the largest strategic industrial projects under discussion anywhere in Southeast Asia. This is not an ordinary factory park. Officials describe it as the world's first AI-native industrial hub. In plain terms, that means the whole zone is designed from the ground up around artificial intelligence, advanced manufacturing, semiconductors, and the processing of critical minerals like nickel and cobalt. It sits inside a bigger plan called the Pax Silica Initiative, a US-led network of trusted partner nations working to build secure supply chains for chips, AI, and rare minerals. The Philippines became the 13th country to sign on, joining partners like Japan, South Korea, Australia, and the United Kingdom. For most of modern history, industrial parks were about one thing: making goods cheaply and shipping them out. This project flips that idea on its head. The New Clark Hub is built around a newer concept called economic security. The idea is simple, but powerful. In today's world, supply chains are weapons. Whoever controls chips, data centers, rare minerals, and AI computing power will shape who holds the advantage in the decades ahead. Jacob Hellberg, the U.S. Undersecretary of State for Economic Affairs, put it bluntly during his May 2026 visit to the site. He said the goal is to fuse the predictability and certainty of American law with the speed and scale of Asia, and he made clear this is meant to look very different from China's Belt and Road projects. Hellberg framed it as a new way of doing business. In January, I said the State Department would treat economic security as a product to be built, not a policy to be announced, he said at the site. Today, we are here to see the first such product come into being.
Every single company who's here is interested in potentially being a part of this historic effort. We need to figure out and finalize, the sectors that will get prioritized around an anchor tenant, and based on that, we will build out an ecosystem of companies that contribute to the master tenant's activities.
In short, the New Clark Zone is meant to be a working test, a live pilot for how the U.S. and its allies might jointly run the supply chains that matter most. To understand why Washington cares so much, look at the numbers. China today refines roughly 85 to 90% of the world's rare earth minerals and controls huge parts of the global battery supply chain. These minerals are the hidden building blocks of phones, electric cars, missiles, and AI servers. That dominance worries American planners. After the COVID-era shortages, the chip crunch, and rising tension over Taiwan, the U.S. began to see its reliance on Chinese supply chains as a national security risk. Its answer is called friendshoring, moving critical supply chains into the hands of allies and partners instead. Think of it like a kitchen that buys every ingredient from a single supplier. If that supplier ever decides to stop selling, the kitchen shuts down. Washington wants more suppliers it can trust. The Philippines is now being positioned as one of them. This is not a small ambition. New Clark is meant to be the first of many such zones, the opening node in a wider network of economic security zones planned across several continents, linking factories, shipping routes, and financing tools among partner economies. If it works here, the model travels. 3 things make the Philippines a near-perfect fit for this plan. First, location. The country sits beside the South China Sea, near Taiwan, and along some of the busiest trade routes on Earth. It lies inside the first island chain that anchors America's entire Indo-Pacific strategy. Second, minerals. The Philippines is one of the world's biggest nickel producers, a key ingredient for EV batteries, energy storage, and military electronics. In 2024, the country accounted for more than a quarter of global nickel exports, sitting on reserves estimated at 444 million metric tons. Its mineral exports jumped from $6.2 billion in 2024 to $7.62 billion in 2025. Third, people. The Philippines offers a young, English-speaking workforce and a growing base of technical talent. As BCDA Chief Joshua Bingkang put it, we don't have the capital, we don't have the technology, but we have the local talents, we offer the land, and we have a very good location in Southeast Asia.
CDA has many business models. It can be a lease, it can be a joint venture, it can be a concession, or even a sale. But sale is out of the picture.
The choice of New Clark City is loaded with meaning. It sits right beside the old Clark Air Base, the very base the Philippines forced the Americans to leave in 1992 after the Cold War ended. That history is impossible to ignore. The U.S. return to Clark signals a deep shift in how America thinks about power. Military alliances alone are no longer seen as enough. Washington now wants integrated ecosystems where military access, factories, chips, data, and AI all work together as one system. In other words, the old base is becoming a new kind of outpost, one measured not in troops, but in technology. Then came the controversy. In April 2026, the Wall Street Journal reported that U.S. negotiators had asked for striking privileges, including diplomatic immunity for American personnel and the right to operate the zone under U.S. law, not Philippine law. For a country that spent decades pushing foreign bases off its soil, this hit a nerve. Critics quickly reached for painful historical comparisons, colonial concessions, treaty ports, foreign enclaves operating outside local control. Manila's response was swift and firm. Joshua Bingkang, head of the base's Conversion and Development Authority, shut the idea down in public. That's their request. But we did not agree to that, he told reporters. There will be no special arrangement accorded to the U.S. Instead, officials confirmed the zone would be governed by existing Philippine laws, the Special Economic Zone Act, the Investors Lease Act, and the BCDA law. Bingkang called it a regular business development contract. The Philippines keeps ownership of the land. The U.S. acts as the master lessee that builds the infrastructure.
That's their request, but we did not agree to that. There are 2 laws that will govern the transaction here. The Investors Lease Act and then the BCDA law, which was confirmed by the Department of Justice. So it will be treated as a regular business development contract. No special arrangement to be accorded to the U.S. government.
Even after Manila's rejection, the debate did more than settle a legal point. It changed the very nature of the project. What began as an economic development story became a national conversation about identity and independence. Labor groups, farmers, and environmental advocates have voiced concern that the hub could deepen foreign influence over Philippine industries or fuel harmful mineral mining. In Southeast Asia, where colonial memory still runs deep, symbolism carries enormous political weight, sometimes more than the legal fine print. Supporters see a once-in-a-generation opportunity. The project could attract billions in investment, create high-skilled jobs, and lift the Philippines up the value chain. Today, the country's semiconductor industry earns about $40 billion a year in exports. But almost all of that comes from low-margin assembly and packaging, not the high-value work. Pax Silica offers a path to finally climb higher. Interest is already strong. More than 20 companies from the US and the Middle East have expressed interest. A May delegation included representatives linked to Foxconn, the world's largest contract electronics maker, along with firms like Agility Robotics, Joby Aviation, 8VC, and Valor Atomics. Several are billion-dollar companies. Scouting visits like these usually come before big money follows, but the risk is just as real. The Philippines could become tied too tightly to US strategic priorities, or exposed to retaliation from China, still one of its largest trading partners. That creates a genuine dilemma. Manila wants American security and investment without losing access to the Chinese economy. Walking that line is getting harder by the year. From China's side of the table, this looks less like a business park and more like encirclement. Beijing will likely read the project as part of a wider US push for industrial containment and technological decoupling, squeezing China out of the supply chains that power the future. There is also a quieter military angle nobody is ignoring. Even if the zone is officially civilian, many of its technologies, semiconductors, AI systems, autonomous robotics, secure data networks, carry obvious defense uses. The line between economic policy and military strategy is fading fast, and a hub just 800 kilometers from the South China Sea makes that blur impossible to miss. For decades, competition in Asia was measured in warships, missiles, and disputed reefs. That contest still exists. But a second, quieter contest is now rising beside it, fought over AI infrastructure, data centers, chip factories, and mineral supply chains. Factories are becoming strategic assets. Industrial parks are becoming geopolitical infrastructure, and economic corridors are starting to function as extensions of military alliances. New Clark City sits right at the center of this shift. Officials hope to break ground before President Marcos Jr. leaves office in 2028, with development possibly starting as early as 2027. Site assessments were set to begin in June 2026, followed by feasibility studies. For Washington, New Clark City is an attempt to build the industrial backbone of a post-China supply chain order. For Manila, it offers extraordinary economic promise, wrapped in hard questions about sovereignty, dependence, and national pride. And for the wider region, this narrow stretch of land in Tarlac may become the prototype for a new kind of alliance, one where chips, code, and minerals matter as much as troops and tanks. The next era of power in the Indo-Pacific may not be decided only at sea. It may be decided in places like New Clark City.